Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favorite films of the early 2000s. It manages to be highly engaging and feel incredibly original when compared to other films that came out around the same time. Eternal Sunshine has a rather unique and daring plot structure that forces the audience to sit in absolute confusion for the starting 30 or so minutes of their first viewing of the film. The non-traditional plot structure in Eternal Sunshine shows just how inescapable love can be, how we fall in love with the same people even when we try our hardest to avoid this outcome. Directed by Michel Gondry and written by Charlie Kaufman, Eternal Sunshine mainly follows the relationship between Joel Barish and Clementine Kruswinski. The perspective of the film begins by solely following Joel's point of view, but as the film progresses, it gets less restricted. However, Joel remains the main subjective point of view throughout the entire film. The first 20 minutes and the last 20 minutes of Eternal Sunshine's plot take place in the same time story-wise. The opening and the ending take place on Valentine's Day and the morning following Valentine's Day. It's treated like this is Joel and Clementine's first meeting, presumably the start of their relationship. After the first 20 minutes, there's a time jump to sometime around another Valentine's Day. Joel is crying about what we later learn to be him and Clementine's breakup. The film intentionally makes it seem like the time jump brought the plot to at least a year in the future, to the next Valentine's Day, but in actuality it went back in time to a day earlier. As the audience, we don't know this yet, and only through the piecemeal delivery of story and plot details do we figure out this through the duration of the film. Most films that come out of Hollywood attempt to tell their story in the most easily understandable way possible. Usually this means telling their story with a logical and easily understandable plot order. Films like E.T. or Star Wars have a completely chronological plot. The first scene of E.T. is of the alien E.T. landing on Earth, and the last scene is of him leaving Earth. Everything between these 2 points is to get us from the beginning to the end. Due to how common films try to be easily understandable, we, as audience members, tend to automatically assume that a film would try to avoid confusing us. This is what makes the opening 30 or so minutes of Eternal Sunshine so confusing. Yet, this confusion is necessary for what the film is trying to say about love. When Joel and Clementine first meet on the train, we don't question them falling for each other and starting a relationship. It seems natural. It just seems like the beginning of any typical romance movie.
Oh,
Jesus.
I thought I would remember you.
Years? It might be the hair.
What might?
It changes a lot, the color. That's why you might not recognize me. It's called Blue Ruin.
Right.
Color. Snappy name, huh?
I like it.
For two strangers just meeting, they act extremely natural together. This can be contributed to by their vast personal history together, but it also shows them falling in love with each other a second time. In Eternal Sunshine, we see two different couples fall in love a second time, Joel and Clementine's relationship, and Mary and Dr. Mierzwiak's relationship. Both relationships end in vastly different places. One couple decides to get back together despite their troubled past, but after Mary and Dr. Mierzwiak briefly get back together, they immediately go their separate ways. However, what both of these relationships have in common is that they both try to end their relationship through extreme means, and yet, in the end, both couples fall in love with each other again despite the lengths they went to avoid this. With Mary and Mierzwiak's relationship, only one of them knew about the procedure after it happened. This was the main strain that forced them to separate in the end. Both Joel and Clementine, it is different. Both of them went through the procedure to erase their memories. Neither of them had any knowledge of their previous relationship when they first met a second time. This is what makes their meeting so special. Even though they both decided to remove the other from their life, they both fall in love with each other again near the end of the story. They have yet to receive the tapes that reveal the information of their previous relationship. In fact, the time jump at the beginning of the film occurs right before Clementine picks up the mail with the tape inside. At the beginning of the film, it is highly important that the information of their first relationship is hidden from the audience. Ultimately, Joel and Clementine, and to a lesser extent Mary and Dr. Mierzwiak, fall in love again. Just in real life, it can be extremely difficult to leave those that love you. Even if you feel that it is best to forget them and move on, you still struggle to truly leave them. Through Joel and Clementine, we see them fall in love with each other. Then in Joel's memories, which are played in reverse chronological order, we watch them break up, and then we see the start of their relationship a second time. Then, near the end of the film, Joel and Clementine learn each other's harshest opinions on their previous relationship, and they almost separate again over it. But in the end, we see them come together one last time. They fall for each other over and over again, powerless to change their outcome. No matter how hard they tried to separate themselves, they kept coming back to each other. Eternal Sunshine shows us this through its order of plot details. The film would not have been even remotely as successful or feel as original if it had done a completely chronological plot. We see Joel and Clementine start their relationship essentially 3 times. They, just like us, are bound in the same loop, to fall in love with the same people and to repeat the same mistakes in love over and over again.